Ahora me presento como equipo de Fiji. Hi, my name is Alejandra Lam. I am the Public Relations Intern at Perspectivas Globales. Before we start, let me tell you the story of an entrepreneur. This entrepreneur had a great idea for a business, but he didn't know how to start. Gets his thinking cap on. He realizes the first thing he needs is some money. So, where do many of you guys go for money? Well, a bank. He might be asking for a loan or checking out his savings. He also can share his idea with his family and friends. Maybe someone can loan him some money too. Once he has some cash, he starts to do his customer research, looking for who would be his target market, who might be he be impacting. He would do an entire research going all boundaries until he finds the best people he could serve. Once he has this primary research done, he sees that his idea is worth it. Now, once he has this first steps done, he will ask himself again, is what I am doing worth it? You might be wondering, why is he asking this again? This is because the market is constantly changing. So he has to double check and make sure that his idea, once he is step by step he goes, he has to make sure that it's still worth it, that the market is still interested in it. His next step would be getting some partners and allies who will help him develop his master strategy. He has to have his plan first so he can go to the next step, which should be developing the product. Once he develops the product, he realizes that it did not work. He also went through some trial error and saw that it didn't work. Then he falls into the phase of frustration. I think we all been in this situation where we plan something and it doesn't go as we want it. From here, he started thinking, this is much harder than I thought it would be. But he thought he should have quit. In some occasions, he also thought, I am a genius, and this is not worth all of this work. But he also thought, from the good to the great, I am running out of money. Everything comes around. But where do I go from here? That is where Perspectivas Globales comes in. What is Fiji for the entrepreneur? Fiji is an incubator and accelerator program by DRMTES that provides guidance and mentorship, smart decision education, master strategy helpers, exposure to investments, competitions, and materials for success, creative spaces which are under construction, networking masterminds, and much more. In other words, you are not alone. Who can be a PG member? Well, existing companies or new ventures that are less than 5 years old, Puerto Rico-based organizations with no more than 7 people, and we are tech visionaries enthusiasts. Therefore, technology-enabled product and or service with markets and in and out of Puerto Rico. Fun fact, we do sometimes take companies with just the bare idea when they're in the first step. So it doesn't matter if you're in the first step, you've done some research, but you see it's worth it and you're stuck, or if you're developing the product, even when you think it failed. If you have the drive for it, PG has got you. PG consists of 4 programs. First, we have incubation, which is financial and technical services available for you, the entrepreneur. Mentorship, based on the experiences of business leaders all over the world. We want to emphasize that our mentors are experienced. Seminars, continuous educational events with helpful tools for the entrepreneurial community. And last but surely not least, internships, exposing future entrepreneurs to the world of business one term at a time. What sets us apart? As I mentioned before, PG has experience-based mentors. These mentors have been through all the experiences of an entrepreneur, if not all, mostly. We have 24/7 support. Our team is waiting for you to reach out. and networking to a whole new level. We know people everywhere. If we don't, we know someone that does. The value of experience-based mentorship. I could not emphasize it more. Our mentors have gone through the blood, sweat, and tears of bringing ideas and businesses to life. They will speak from experiences. It's not about just having the preparation academically, but going through it. They will understand you because they have been in your own shoes. Students with perspectives. Students actively pursuing a degree can apply to a paid internship at Fiji. Interns here have the opportunity to work on their own projects related to their role at PG, and it's something that distinguishes all at PG. By now, you should be in love with PG and wonder, how can I become a part of PG? Well, you can come to us with looking for help in different aspects, whether it is mentorship, investment, education, spaces, strategies. And this is when we set you up for a meeting in which we will ask you who you are, what do you do, and what is your plan. And you will present us your company, and you will tell us, I do this, and my plan is that. All right? Once you're a member of PG, you will get prime access to mentors, education, networking, and spaces. By the way, spaces is an area for you to work, for you to develop your ideas. It is a space where you have Wi-Fi, you have a table, you can do meetings here. Also, you have 24/7 support in all these areas: human resources, business strategy, engineering, and much more. And of course, immediate exposure. And guess what? It's all free for the entrepreneur. Some restrictions may apply. These are some of our member companies that have been growing with us, and we've been support for them. If you want to learn more about them, you can visit us at perspectivasglobales.com. And if they could do it, why can't you? We'll help you along the way. We want to lead you to success. You can follow us on our social medias. We're really, really fun social media. And if you have any questions, you can let us know. Thank you. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it all right?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So thank you, Alejandra, for that introduction of what PG is. Hopefully you guys can visualize somewhat better what PG is all about, and really emphasize that PG is here to help anyone and everyone who wants to be an entrepreneur or has a business idea that really is passionate about, and know that it is completely available to you, the resources, and it's Maya West based. So with that out of the way, I officially welcome you to the Diversity and Inclusion Workshop brought to you by Perspectivas Globales. And hopefully, once we finish this workshop, you have a more wider view of what diversity and inclusion means to us at PG. So we want you to meet the speakers that are going to host this workshop. First, we have Kelsey Melendez. She is currently our human resource coordinator at PG. She is currently in Dallas, Texas. She is from Texas, and she's studying an undergrad in human resource management in the University of Texas. And a fun fact about Kelsey is that she has a pit bull named Sugar. And she's very cute. You have myself, L'Oreal Chung. If you haven't met me yet, I am the current brand marketer for PG. I'm currently based in Maya West, Puerto Rico. I'm a recent graduate from UPRM, and specifically Human Resource Management. And a fun fact about me is that I like to explore different types of food, and I'm a big foodie. And lastly, but not least, we have Jalanis Velez. She is currently the research program leader in Perspectivas Globales, and she is currently in Barcelona, Spain. So she is giving the workshop from there, remotely, of course. And a fun fact about Jalanis is that she's currently living in Spain, and she is working with us from Spain, working on her entrepreneur venture as well. So now hopefully you have a friendly face to the voices that you're going to hear in this workshop. So I want to start off with an icebreaker, to open up your mics and participate in this icebreaker. And what I want you to do is I'm going to show you a series of images, and I want you to scream out or say anything that you think it's missing. It could be something in the image, something that you think can add to the image, anything at all that you think it's missing. Open up your mics. I invite you to open up your mics and say what you think it is. There's no wrong answers, so feel free to say whatever pops up in your mind. So the first image that we have, I think that some of you are familiar with this cast of good-looking people. This is from the 90s sitcom Friends. So this is the main characters of the show. I just want you to look at it and see if there's something missing, or you think there's something missing. It could be in the image, it could be in the people, anything at all that you think could be missing from this image. And don't be afraid to open up your mics. And you can write it in the chat, but if Alejandra or anyone in the PG team can say, because I can't see the chat right now. Any guesses? There's no wrong answers.
Is it valid to say that we don't see anything wrong with the picture?
Sure. That is also valid. If you think there's nothing missing, that is also completely valid. So I am going to give you the answer. In terms of diversity, what's lacking in this cast and in the show in general, if you've seen some of the episodes, is African American and Asian representation, whether it be in the main characters and the secondary characters from the show. Mind you that this was a really famous sitcom from the 90s, and still to this day it has a huge following, but it does lack African American and Asian representation. So the next image is there's a lot of important people in this image. You see the Queen Elizabeth, and you see former President Barack Obama. Something that stands out to you in this image, or something that you think is missing in terms of diversity?
A lot of men.
Yeah, that's right. So what's lacking is more female representation. So I just want you to picture this image without the male counterparts. It would only be 3 female in the picture. So definitely a more female representation is needed in this particular photo. And the final photo for the icebreaker, this is an image of last year's presidential debate. We see former President Donald Trump and active President Joe Biden. This was a also televised event, and a lot of people tune in to see the debate. In the image, or if you saw the debate, something that was lacking or something that there was not in the debate that in terms of diversity and inclusion that you think was needed in this debate? Going once, going twice. So in this presidential debate, a lot of people were calling out the event because there was no ASL interpreter. So the hearing impaired or the difficult of hearing community could not appreciate and could not fully grasp what was being said in the debate because there was no interpreter in the TV network or present in the debate. So this basically is an introduction of what more or less we're going to touch base on this workshop. Hopefully this gives you a more wider view of everyday things or media things like TV shows, movies, presidential debates, and political events they're really famous and events that are seen throughout the world, and those events lacked diversity. So we really want to touch base on the mundane things that we do on a day-to-day basis and how you can add another perspective in terms of diversity and inclusion.
All right, thank you so much, L'Oreal, for getting us started. So as we saw, especially with the last few images that we looked at, diversity can mean a lot of different things. So I'd like to challenge everyone to think about, what does diversity mean to you? And if anyone would like to open up their mic and say a few words, I'll give you a moment for that. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking.
I think diversity means, at least for me, is having people around you that you can feel represented when you are with them and when you look at them, so you don't feel as different, even though being different is great. But as a human, we tend to, we are not so, happy, or we get nervous when we don't see people that are like us.
Right. Okay, absolutely. No, you're definitely right about that. Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to share? All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and move forward. Okay, so based on the SHRM definition of what diversity is, it is the collective mixture of differences and similarities that includes, for example, individual and organizational characteristics, values, beliefs, experiences, backgrounds, preferences, and behaviors. So I have a little activity that I'd like to do real quick. If everyone would just take a moment to grab maybe a pen and some paper, or you can take a note on your phone or do it on your computer, that's totally fine, but I'll give you just a little bit of time to grab that. All right. Thank you. Okay, perfect. And once you do grab that, I'd like you to take, I'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes to do this. Everyone write down 4 words that you think describe your identity. And this could be anything from physical appearance to how you are socially or your personality. And if everyone would kindly just send a message in the chat when you finish, that would be great. Thank you, Gabriela. Really appreciate it. Does anyone need a couple more minutes? No? Are we all good? Perfect. Okay, now I'd like you to take a look at the 4 words that you have, and then you're going to rank these words in order of which ones influence you the most. So ask yourself, when you think of yourself, which of these words do you think of first? For example, I might think of myself as optimistic before I think of myself as female. Would anyone like to share the order of their words?
I can share them. So I wrote sincere, quiet, open-minded, and joyful, and I thought that the first one would be sincere, and maybe sometimes too sincere. Yeah, that would be my top one.
That's very interesting. No, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that you're thinking about it. And you think that impacts you the most, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. Because sometimes the truth hurts. And if you don't work on having like a filter or something like that, maybe it can hurt the people you care about.
You're absolutely correct. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Okay. Would anyone else like to share?
I can share mine.
Okay.
I wrote that I am a person, I am brave, I am athletic, and I am a woman. I'm not sure. I think the one that affects me the most is that I am brave.
Okay.
Because it sometimes makes me do stuff without thinking them through or something, but yes, those are my 4 words.
I had the same one too. I put in bubbly, courageous, Latina, and woman, and that is my order of influence as well. So I'm kind of debating if bubbly and courageous should be switched. So I get that.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. This is really interesting to hear. All right, now the next part of this activity is we're going to take a look at your 4 words and we're going to reorder them. I'd like you to look at it now and ask yourself, which words would society use to define you? And then rearrange the answers accordingly.
Can we share once we have the order?
Yes, I would like it if you could share, and also if everyone could just take a moment to reflect and think about how much you had to change the order of the words. And do you think society affects the way that we see ourselves, or is our idea of ourselves different from society's idea?
Okay. So I can share if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first word that I perceived myself was observant. However, I do think that society may perceive me first as unique, because sometimes I think more outside the box than the people that surround me. So I thought that I think that that's how society may perceive me sometimes. In terms of the order, I did change it. I changed the first one, the third one, and the fourth one. The second one, I thought it could stay like that, because sometimes I do think that society has an image of me that I don't necessarily perceive of myself. So I may be like a reserved person, more low key, but I don't perceive myself as that. I think I'm, a little outgoing at times, but at the same time, I really try to study my surroundings, so people might mistake that as disengagement, or just she doesn't like care enough to be present. But I think that in my thought process, I'm just analyzing everything that's happening in my surroundings.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I rearranged some of my words, and much like L'Oreal said, in my case, I'm really quiet, and I think that would be the first thing that society sees of me, but they don't know that behind that quietness, I'm observing everything. And I'm not shy, but I'm an introvert, so I like to keep to myself. But then once you get to know me, I can talk your ear off with no problem. But I see that we live in an extroverted society, so that kinds of put pressures on people like us. So we have to navigate around that. But that would be like, if you first meet me, you would see that I'm like maybe a little bit quiet and not so much smiling, but I can totally be really joyful and laugh and like everybody else.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. I really appreciate everyone who wanted to talk, and if you didn't want to talk, I hope that you got some good insights writing on your own. I know that these can be personal, so no worries there. Let's go ahead and move forward. So I'd like to talk about a particular obstacle to inclusion that you might see, you might be aware of, it might be hard to spot for you, which is completely fine. So let's take a look a little bit into this video that I found that helps explain the concept of microaggressions.
Let me know if you can hear it.
Ew! Get off of me!
Sophie, go to little girls room.
Yes,
for a
we
minute.
hear it.
There's going to be some things that you're going to be able to get that other people in the office don't get. One of them, gym membership.
You want me to lose weight?
I don't want you to.
Look, you're missing the sight. That's we're missing the action.
Oye, sabrosura. You want to have some ice cream with my friend of me?
Get lost, greaseball.
Microaggressions are along a continuum from being very deliberate and conscious to being outside one's conscious behavior. We identified 3 types of microaggressions. Microassaults, which are very similar to old-fashioned racism.
You kind don't understand English.
My kind.
The other types of microaggressions are more insidious, hidden, subtle, and the second type is a micro-insult. A couple of color comes into a restaurant to be seated. They're seated in a more undesirable place than a white couple who might be coming in.
Did you see any white people in there waiting an hour and 32 minutes for a plate of spaghetti? Huh? And how many cups of coffee did we get?
You don't drink coffee, and I didn't want any.
Man, that woman in there poured cup after cup to every single white person around us. But did she even ask you if you wanted any?
a micro-invalidation assails their racial identity and self-esteem. Let's say African Americans, they are dangerous and criminal.
You see that?
Man, she's cold.
She got colder as soon as she saw us, though.
Oh, man, come on, don't stop.
Man, look around you, man. You couldn't find a whiter, safer, or better lit part of this city right now.
There can be racial microaggressions, sexual orientation microaggressions, disability microaggressions, and gender microaggressions. Catcalls, staring at a woman's breasts or legs. It's a microaggression because it fulfills the theme of what we call sexual objectification.
I love the fact that you're a grandma.
Oh, God!
You are! You're a hot grandma!
Oh, my God!
Environmental microaggressions are a hostile and invalidating climate. If you choose to stay, you will be uncomfortable.
Yo, Mook! Mookie!
What?
Come here, no brothers up on the wall.
Man, ask Sal, right?
Hey, Sal, how come you got no brothers up on the wall here?
You want brothers on the wall? Get your own place. You can do what you want.
Yeah, I'm a trouble. I'm making trouble.
Just coming in here. Suppose I busted your head.
Microaggressions are cumulative, and any one may represent the feather that breaks a camel's back.
There at the bush. You said you were going to get Jose to do it.
He here, garden, and where you don't fit in?
Lucy, you know I don't speak Mexican.
I'm not a Mexican.
How unpopular Vietnam was. I'm not Vietnamese, I'm American.
What do you think, I'm gay? Aren't you? What's the matter with you? Do I look gay to you? Do I look gay to you?
You're a good-looking man.
Thank you.
Very pretty. Real soft, delicate features. They're real feminine, which is good for me because that would be a simple sort of transition, you know what I'm saying? Maybe throw a little rouge on you, tuck your sack back, you gay.
Ew! Get off of me!
All right, thank you. Okay, so as we saw in the video, there are 3 different types of microaggressions, and what makes microaggressions so dangerous is the fact that they build upon each other. So one of these instances in and of itself might not be that difficult, but when it happens frequently over an extended period of time, these things build up, they build pressure, and they make it really, really difficult for you to continue around your daily activities because it builds up that stress and that anxiety. So I'm going to talk about it again, what was talked about in the video of the 3 different types of microaggressions that you might come in contact with. There are micro insults. These are often unconscious behaviors. These are demeaning messages about an aspect of someone's identity. There are also micro assaults. These are conscious behaviors. And you see these a lot of times in the form of what you might consider to be old-fashioned discrimination or racism. There are also micro invalidations. These are often unconscious behaviors. They are exclusionary and dismissive of the recipient's feelings, thoughts, and reality.
Right, so thank you, Kelsey, for explaining what diversity is and how can it, the lack of it can really affect. So I'm going to touch base a little bit on what inclusion is, because this is our diversity and inclusion workshop, and diversity and inclusion are similar, but they have they touch base on different things. So the SHRM definition of inclusion is the achievement of a work environment in which all individuals are treated fairly and respectfully, have equal access to opportunities and resources, and can contribute fully to the organization's success. So how you might want to look at inclusion is that you have a working team and you give them all resources so they can be successful in their task, in their given task. However, not everyone is the same. So the resources that team member A might need may not be the same as the resources team member B needs. So inclusion, it tackles on the fact that people need different types of accommodations or different types of resources in order to achieve an end goal, which is to be successful or to end the task that is given. So if you can't fully understand it, when I think of inclusion, I always go back to this image. So if you can see the image on the left, everyone has the same resources, so just one crate. However, only two of the people in the image can see the baseball game. So yeah, you give the same resources to everyone, but it's not accommodating to each individual person. So in the image in the right, you see that each individual person was accommodated and was given the resources that they needed in order to see the baseball game. And in order for everyone to be on a level playing field in terms of the visualization of the baseball game. So when you think of inclusion and when you try to implement it on working teams or on your daily lives with your family and friends, think on the fact that not everyone is the same. However, the end goal, we want it to be the same, which is that everyone has an equal opportunity to hence see the baseball game. So I want to share some statistics of diversity and inclusion and how companies are implementing more and more these initiatives. So 67% of job seekers consider diversity important when considering employment opportunities, meaning that people like us who are actively seeking job opportunities are really giving a lot of thought to companies who have some diversity and inclusion efforts within their companies already. And that is something that is really important to job seekers because it correlates to their personal values, and it also is in line with what they want to achieve in their professional careers. So companies with higher than average diversity have a 79% higher innovation revenues. So this means that companies who have a diverse group, so people with different ethnicities, people from different backgrounds, different ways of thinking or different perspectives, those companies have a higher chance to have more revenue, so more earnings, because of that diverse working group. 56% of the 87 million millennials in the country are white, as compared to 72% of the 76 million members of the baby boomer generation. This means that our parents' generation had more Caucasian counterparts. So 72%, of our parents' generation was predominantly white, and we're touching base on the U.S. and Puerto Rico was predominantly white. But now with millennial and Gen Zers, we're seeing more diversity in terms of race, in terms of ethnicities, and the mixture of everything. So that's a good sign for diversity efforts, because it means that there's a melting pot of a lot of cultures and a lot of points of view. And finally, diverse teams are 87% better at making decisions. And this touch base again on the fact that you can see a problem from different perspectives, meaning that you can, a working team can take a more holistic and a more specific approach to tackling individual issues in companies or individual issues in teams because of their diverse ways of growing up and their diverse ways of culture.
All right. Thank you, L'Oreal, and thank you, Kelsia, for defining and really diving deep into what is diversity and what is inclusive, what is inclusion. So now we can talk about being more inclusive and maybe being more successful as leaders, whatever it is that we are doing. And when we engage with others, we saw that the lack of diversity or the lack of acknowledgement of that diversity, the lack of inclusion can make some people feel really uncomfortable. It can affect who we interact with, how it can affect others' success. And so I think it was Gabriela, she mentioned at first that we humans, we are all different, but it feels kind of weird for us when we feel we're the only different person. And so that's where inclusion can make you, okay, be different and also feel comfortable with it. And so, we can all be like that on the same page. So now that we have defined those concepts and we can begin to tackle these, we're going to be talking about bias a little bit. And so this is the first time that we mentioned the word bias. So I want to define bias because here at PG, we have our definition of bias, and we talk about bias as the tendency of choosing one alternative over another. So we have two choices for something, we have two options, and then we always have the tendency to choose one of those two options. For example, if I wake up in the morning and I always brush my teeth with my right hand, it doesn't mean that I can't brush my teeth with my left hand. I can totally brush my teeth with my left hand. It just might take a little bit more effort, and I've always brushed my teeth with my right hand. So every morning I don't even have to make that decision. I just unconsciously brush my teeth with my right hand. And so that is not harming anyone. That is the most convenient way for me to do that. But then we see how we might have other types of tendencies where we choose one alternative that can not have that inclusion aspect that we're talking about. For example, when we see for the presidential debates, everybody tended to assume that maybe there was no need for an ASL interpreter. Maybe they didn't even think about it. They didn't even consider it. And that really harmed those who had difficulty with their hearing, for them to be able to make a choice even for something so practical as voting. So we see that these can really have an impact on people and what they do and who we are and how they feel. And so we don't want that to happen. We want everyone to have the same end goal, like Lorian was saying. We want equal opportunities. We want everybody to be able to be successful. And so we're going to talk about some types of biases, so then we can work with them and start beginning to see how we can apply this to our lives and really tackle being more inclusive and respecting other people's diversity. So we're going to talk about beauty bias, gender bias, affinity bias, conformity bias, and halo and horns, which are some common types of biases. Okay, so on the left hand, at the top corner, we have a picture where we can see these people, they look maybe like they're dressed for an interview. And we're going to talk here about the beauty bias, which is maybe you're a recruiter and you're going to recruit these people. They go through an interview process. You look at their resumes, you talk to them, you meet them, whatever whatever it is that your process requires. And so you can ask yourself how your decision could be or would be different if you had not seen people's faces or their appearance in general. Would your decision change? How is it affecting your decision or your recruiting process? That person that you actually want on your team. So on the bottom of the left side, we have an example of affinity bias. And we see this a lot in TV shows and movies where people with certain characteristics tend to interact. People with the same skin color or the same religion, or even when they share disabilities. And it's because we have this tendency or this bias to feel a little bit more comfortable when we share other characteristics with people. So we also have on the top right corner an example of gender bias, where we see that women tend to have certain characteristics, and we say they're suited for certain types of jobs, or men have these other characteristics and they're more suited for other types of jobs. And that is not true at all. We can have mixed matched characteristics, and women can be great at whatever it is their person is great, whatever it is they've learned, they've developed to be. The same can happen with men. They don't all have to be independent, courageous, or aggressive. So on the bottom of the right side, we have an example of conformity bias. And we can think about when we were children and our mothers would say, so your friends are going to do this, they're going to jump off a cliff, and you're going to go ahead and do it too. And sometimes we would actually do that because our friends were going to do that. We would actually just conform to that group decision or to avoid that feeling of being uncomfortable or disrupting a group thing. So we don't want to, we have that bias, that tendency to not want to feel different sometimes. So our last examples are the halo and horns bias. And then this is when we let a single trait in a person, whether it's a good or bad trait, we let that single trait define the person in its person entirety. So we might have a friend who knows a lot about gardening, and then that makes us think, wow, she's so amazing, or he's so amazing. She's really good at gardening. I mean, look at that. She's an expert. But that doesn't necessarily mean that our friend knows about anything else other than gardening, or can give us the best advice for other types of problems or things we might be talking to them about. And so this is something that we have to watch out for as well. So now that we defined these types of biases so that we know what they mean, we can, to the next slide, we can pick one of these and think about how these might look like for you. How maybe beauty bias has been for you, how maybe you have been biased by this affinity or this conformity bias, this gender bias, and think about how you can avoid them. So you might want to take 1 minute to think about these, and if you want, you can share. If not, that's okay. I can share. You can also share through the chat.
So I can share to break the ice a little bit. So I think that growing up, I had to challenge really the conformity bias, because everyone wants to feel accepted, and sometimes for me personally, I try to mold myself with every friend group and not necessarily keeping my essence as a person. So I would say, yeah, I like to wear this type of dress, even though I really didn't like it, but I wanted everyone to accept me and, feel that I related to them in a way. So I like the picture you mentioned. I jumped off the cliff also because everyone was doing it, even though it wasn't particularly of my liking, and it made me somewhat uncomfortable in a negative sense because I didn't feel as myself when I tried to conform to what everyone was doing.
That's really good. Thank you for sharing, L'Oreal. Yeah, I think we definitely have been through all of that, where we want to feel accepted and we're kind of like scared. We might feel, yes, of being different or having another opinion. I see Ariadna shared her affinity bias, where she tends to interact with people that are like her, that share similar characteristics, and she said that she can avoid this by not judging first impressions and getting to know the person better. And I think that's a really good strategy. Does anybody else want to share? All right. Well, I'll leave you with Kelsia.
All right, thank you so much. And I would like to introduce a little bit of perspective on a type of diversity that may be frequently misunderstood. So the spoon theory is a short story written by author and lupus advocate Christine Miserandino. And it includes an analogy in which Christine utilizes spoons and uses them to represent a unit of energy that helps represent the limited amount of energy in people with chronic physical illnesses. This has since been adapted to explain the impact of mental illnesses as well. So in the spoon theory, Christine talks about how, let's say you have 12 spoons in a day. Each of these spoons is a unit of energy, and different activities cost a different number of spoons. So, for example, let's say that I wake up in the morning, and the first thing that I want to do is I need to take my medication. So I've already used 1 spoon. So now I have 11. Let's say after that I need to take a shower. I take a shower, I've used 2 more spoons. So now I have 9. Now I need to, plan out the rest of my day accordingly. All I've done is get up, take my medication, and take a shower. So let's say I need to work that day. That's going to be 4 spoons. Now I have 5. So what do I need to do with the rest of my day? I have 5 spoons left. Let's say I wanted to go grocery shopping and make dinner. I can't do both. Each of those costs 3 spoons. So it's really meant to call attention to the fact that for people who are battling chronic illnesses or people who are battling mental illnesses, it takes a toll on their body, on their energy, and it's a lot harder to complete tasks that you might find to be simple every day for them. So if you'd like to think a little bit about it and take a look at this chart, is there anyone here who can clearly see that you might not have been able to get through your entire day with 12 spoons?
I don't think I could have made it with 12 spoons.
Me either, honestly.
Me either.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for listening to that. And L'Oreal?
Yes, so we are coming to a conclusion to our workshop, but before we really wanted to challenge you guys starting tomorrow, or even starting when this workshop ends, to really step out of your comfort zone and question your daily biases, whether it be the way you see someone or risk-taking and doing something that you might not do regularly, to really challenge yourself and put your perspective in other people's shoes, to really look with another perspective and challenge those biases, because at the end of the day, we really do think that if we put work into how we think, and if we can better how we go about our day, it really does have and add value to how we tackle problems, whether it be personal problems, working problems, or anything that we're going through on our daily lives. We really do think that going through the process of asking yourself questions, am I being just in this decision, and did I see this problem with every perspective? How can I better this person's journey? And how can I add value and be a beacon of XYZ's person's success? So we really do hope that this workshop gave you another perspective on what diversity and inclusion is and can be, and how it not only is of added value in working teams, but it also adds value on your personal and professional growth. So if we invite you to fill out this form, because we love feedback, we crave feedback, and we really want to know how was your experience with this workshop. What did you like? What did you think we need to improve on future workshops? And anything that you want to share, it is well received. So we want to thank Sherm for the invitation and the opportunity to share a little bit about what PG is, and really try to be that seed of difference, and really create that curiosity on your minds, and have and crave those different perspectives.